You're listening to the Doc Lounge podcast. This is a place for candid conversations with the healthcare industry's top physicians, executives, and thought leaders. This podcast is made possible by Pacific Companies, your trusted advisor in physician recruitment.
Welcome to the Doc Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Doyle, Senior Director of Marketing at Pacific Companies. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us, a powerhouse in the world of health optimization, biohacking, and peak performance. Dr. Mike Van Thielen is not just a physician, he's a best-selling author, keynote speaker, world record-holding athlete, and an expert in regenerative medicine and biohacking. With over 30 years of experience in optimal health practices, anti-aging, and sports performance, Dr. Mike has helped countless individuals regain control of their health and unlock their full potential. From serving as an assistant coach and therapist for the Belgium Olympic swim team to treating elite athletes, including NFL pros and heavyweight boxing champions, Dr. Mike has been at the forefront of cutting-edge health innovations. He's also the medical director at HydroHeal, leading the way in molecular hydrogen therapy for cellular optimization. His latest book, The IZOD Method, Unleash Your Superpower, dives deep into how to find purpose, optimize productivity, and harness the latest biohacking strategies to upgrade your both mind and body. Dr. Mike, welcome to the Doc Lounge podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Stacey. It's a pleasure.
Excited to have you on and wanted just to, hear about your journey. What originally inspired you to pursue medicine?
As people can hear my accent, I grew up in Belgium. And I was into sports. I was very competitive. So I ended up going to the University of Brussels for physical education, which was fun. But what are you going to do with that degree, really, right? So then I decided to add physical therapy to that. And in 1997, I actually decided to come to the United States. I saved $400, packed my backpack, put my jeans on, and came live the American dream, right? It wasn't always easy because without a credit score and money, you get knocked down quite often, but my motto quickly became you never lose, you win or learn. So fast forward, I was working at some medical clinics and I saw that conventional medicine had its limitations. So I kind of decided to go back to school to the Florida College of Integrative Medicine, a 3-year program. I got my bachelor's in professional health studies, license in acupuncture, oriental medicine, Chinese herbal medicine, homeopathy, the whole 9 yards. But after another several hundred patients, I got very frustrated because these quote-unquote alternative therapies, they are indeed less invasive than conventional medicine, meaning drugs, injections, and surgeries. But I really didn't get the lasting results I was hoping for. So I felt I needed to go back to basics, and that's when I decided to get my PhD in holistic nutrition. But I also felt like Mother Nature probably had the answer to health. And so I started looking at animals in the wild and what they do. And usually they have the right answer. So I always tell people to get a second opinion by looking at the animals in the wild versus to go to another doctor. And usually that gives you some good ideas what should be done. But with that PhD and looking at Mother Nature, I became very comfortable and confident in helping people overcome their medical issues, whether it was cancer, Parkinson's, lupus, etc., or on the other end, helping people getting to that next level. So I worked, as you said, with top athletes, but also high-end executives, entrepreneurs, etc., and everything in the middle. Fast forward, I think 2015 till COVID started, I was the CEO of a stem cell clinic, and that's where we treated a lot of athletes, but also regular patients, a lot of neuropathy patients, chronic pain patients. And then when COVID started, I really had to start thinking, what is it that I really want to do myself? And I left the brick and mortar type of deal. And so today I'm continue to write books and articles, but mostly do some keynote speaking, and I do mentoring coaching. I have one-on-one clients, whether they want to overcome a disease or whether they want to get to that next level or whether they want to win an Olympic gold. I have online virtual training, and I'm actually in the midst of finalizing my online courses called the Limitless Lab, and that's where we get you step by step through on how to get to that next level through self-optimization, which part of it is biking, upgrading your body, your mind, and your life.
That's exciting. So I want to hear a little bit about your latest book. So that is titled The Izod Method, Unleash Your Superpower. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the top biohacking strategies you're recommending to. It sounds like you have a variety of patients and clients that you're treating.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about just recommending some. I guess the best way to explain is based on my clients, I kind of categorize them in three levels or three categories. Number one, most people fall in there. Unfortunately, it's people that are either in pain or they are overweight or they are diagnosed with a medical condition. So, in my opinion, they're operating below normal, right? So, step number one or phase number one, we need to regain control of our health. We need to get rid of that pain. We need to overcome that medical condition. We got to get in optimal body composition. So we back to baseline. Then step number two is once we're back to baseline, we need to optimize our health. So that's where we're going to incorporate lifestyle modifications so that we can feel strong and vital again and don't feel always tired and sluggish, right? So that's optimal health. And then only when we're in optimal health, stage number three, that would be the ideal foundation to maximize the benefits of biohacking, upgrading your body, your mind, and your life. But from a medical point of view, what it means to me is objectively reversing our biological age and become superhuman. So I kind of guide people through those three phases. And just like anything else, Stacey, there's no silver bullets or magic bullets, right? We have to just, incorporate some lifestyle changes. But I usually teach people seven foundations and seven things that we do on a daily basis to have a good foundation. And then, of course, there are certain technologies and strategies that we can implement that help throughout all three phases, right? You mentioned molecular hydrogen is very popular these days, but it's also rigorously backed by scientific research on how it can help in phase one with overcoming diseases, but also in the latest phase by preventing diseases, increasing, ATP production and become superhuman. So certain applications, they kind of will be helpful throughout those three phases.
I'm really curious because you are the medical director at HydroHeal, which is, pioneering molecular hydrogen therapy. Tell us what exactly is this? Like, how does this work?
Yeah. Um, I guess the best thing to do is kind of explain a little bit on how it works on a cellular level because there's about 1,200 peer-reviewed studies out there on molecular hydrogen. About 200 of them are human studies, so it's pretty impressive. But those studies show that it has a positive effect on 170 plus common diseases. And so when doctors hear this, like, oh, we got a fix all again. So to understand why it has a positive effect on all diseases and all conditions that we research is we need to understand how it works on our biology, physiology, how it works on a cellular, even mitochondrial level. So the first thing is, if you remember from school, hydrogen is the first element on the periodic table. It only has one electron, one proton. So it's the lightest element and the most abundant element in the universe. Now, molecular hydrogen is different. Molecular hydrogen is hydrogen gas. It's two hydrogen atoms in a covalent bond together, which is a strong bond. But it makes it neutral. It makes it non-polar. So there's no charge to molecular hydrogen. And because it's the smallest element and it has no charge, it easily can cross the cell membrane and enter the cell where most diseases start, including cancer. And because of the same properties, it also easily can cross the blood-brain barrier and enter the brain and our neurons and the brain cells, which, as we know in conventional medicines are therapies or medicine that works in the body. Often we cannot get into the brain, and so we still are far behind when it comes to trying to help with neurodegenerative diseases. So the first thing to understand that it is very small, it is not charged, and it can get into the brain, it can get into the cell, into the mitochondria. And once we understand that, I think we need to talk about its top properties, right? Its features. So according to all that research, it shows that its number one feature, it's a selective antioxidant, meaning it neutralizes those free radicals that we always talk about. But unlike other antioxidants like vitamin C, D, etc., again, it can do that inside the cell. Vitamin C cannot go in the cell and do that. So we can do that at its source, right? Um, And it says selective. That means it will neutralize harmful free radicals like hydroxyl free radicals and peroxynitrate within the cell, because those are the ones causing severe oxidative damage, which then also could damage the DNA and also the mitochondrial DNA. So it neutralizes those, but it keeps the beneficial ROS, reactive oxygen species. It spares those because we know we need those, as part of our immune system, but it also is important in cellular signaling, cellular homeostasis, and the list goes on. So that's number one, selective antioxidant. Number two, it's a strong anti-inflammatory. It stimulates the NRF2 pathway. It reduces pro-inflammatory cytokines like TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha. It reduces all our interleukins, 1 alpha, 1 beta, 6, 8, 10, and the list goes on according to the research. So now we have the top two, powerful antioxidant and strong anti-inflammatory. And in the medical field, we know that those two are basically the cause of all disease, right? Furthermore, I won't go into detail, but it promotes autophagy, which is the recycling of damaged proteins and components within the cell. It regulates apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, so it cleans up those zombie cells and senescent cells. It boosts our immune system, and the list goes on. So knowing that it works on that cellular and even mitochondrial level, we can understand why it has a positive impact, not just on overcoming diseases by reducing that inflammation and oxidative stress, but also by preventing disease and also increasing athletic performance and promoting longevity.
Wow. Okay. Sign me up for that.
Yeah, right. And it's 100% safe. You don't really need doctor's guidance. You can't overdo it. So there's in-home applications. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so how often do you recommend, and what kind of, I've heard of like the cryotherapy, and then the chambers, the higher.
That's different. Those are hyperbaric chambers. So that's 100% oxygen where you basically increase the pressure. Athletes use it. It's hyperbaric oxygen is for people with Parkinson's and in neurodegenerative diseases to force oxygen deeper into the blood and the brain. But that's totally different from molecular hydrogen.
Okay. Okay, I'm learning a lot here. This is
Yeah,
great.
no,
This
that's
is
good.
exciting.
Hyperbaric is a great application based on what you want to achieve or what you want to overcome. And so is molecular hydrogen. But the hydrogen you can drink, this is hydrogen water, but you also can inhale. And the inhalation, it's much more powerful because you can deliver a much higher concentration within the same unit of time. We can drink 60 gallons of water per day, right? But with 15 minutes of inhalation, we can get the same amount of molecular hydrogen. So we have different types of delivery systems. We have tablets, which looks kind of like a supplement. That's a chemical reaction because those hydrogen tablets are elemental magnesium. And when we dissolve them in water, they just change the pH. But by increasing the pH, the byproduct becomes hydrogen. It's unstable, and that's why they say drink it immediately. So we don't know how much we're getting, but it's a cheap and easy way to get hydrogen. Then we have the hydrogen bottles. They're to-go bottles, travel bottles. Then we have home units that produce water or produce the hydrogen for inhalation. And we have units that can both produce the water and the inhalation. Now, all those systems they're based on electrolysis. They basically are splitting the H2O, the water, in oxygen gas and hydrogen gas. The oxygen escapes in the room, and the hydrogen gas we can directly inhale or suspend back in water to make hydrogenated water. And so what I usually do with my clients is based on what they want to use it for. Is it to overcome cancer, or is it to just prevent disease and stay fit? And anything else in between, based on what they're going to use it for and based on their budget, I usually make them a recommendation. And I have a whole resources page of different companies, etc., on my website. If people want to review it, I'll be glad to make recommendations based on, again, their budget and based on what they would like to achieve with the hydrogen.
That's exciting. What is that website so everybody has that?
My website is biohackingunlimited.com or MVT, my initials, Mike Van Thielen, mvtonline.com, same website. The resources page, that's where you can find the hydrogen. You can find all my books there, keynote speaking page, my mentorship programs, online programs, everything is on the website.
That's really exciting. And one of the things I heard in the beginning when you were talking about the different levels of health and determining the plan for your different clients, talk a little bit about, that first, that group that isn't at just, baseline health. What are some things that you're, typically seeing or recommending, as,
Yeah.
for people?
I start with the foundations because I believe that drugs don't cure, injections don't cure, surgeries don't cure, but I also believe high quality supplements don't cure, or molecular hydrogen by itself doesn't cure, or healthy eating doesn't cure. I believe that only the body can heal itself, and that we need to start realizing that when we interfere, we may disrupt and get some short-term positive or negative result, but we'll never will get a long-lasting, healing when we interfere with this delicate, complicated system. And so I believe we need to just step away from that and kind of do whatever we can to put the body in balance to achieve that homeostasis. And so what our job is to give the body the tools or put it in the correct conditions so that it can heal itself. And that's where kind of the 7 foundations come in. So I talk about, we can go over them quickly if you want to.
That'd be great.
But number one would be water. We are a almost spilled it. We are a plumbing system. We have a cardiovascular system, lymphatic system. That's part of our immune system. And so things need to move and things need to hydrate. So if you think of plumbing in your home, we need water in there. And so you need to drink plenty of water. We need to hydrate. And you've heard it many times. And people heard most of those 7 foundations, but they don't implement them. So nothing happens, right? But not only that, I think the biggest mistake is with drinking water is because a lot of people say, oh, I drink enough water. But the question is, what else do you drink? Do you drink coffee? How much coffee do you drink? Do you drink sodas? Do you drink fruit juices? Do you drink Red Bulls and Monsters, right? Because those dehydrate you. So you're not going to get ahead of the game if you also drink other stuff. Again, we talked about your second opinion. What do animals in the wild do after they get off the mother's breast? They drink what? Only what? Water, right? So hydrating means, yes, water, but make sure you don't dehydrate yourself while you're trying to hydrate. So number two, oxygen. We get 21% out of the air. Step number one, we don't want recirculated oxygen all the time. So try to spend more time outdoors. But more importantly, 90+% of us don't know how to utilize that oxygen properly because we don't know how to breathe properly. And that's why people need to start looking into breath work. The best app out there right now, I would say, is the Breath Source or the Source because most breath masters of the world are on that same platform. But just start understanding that we shouldn't breathe through the mouth. The mouth's there to eat and speak. The thing in the middle of our face actually has a function. It is to breathe. We're supposed to inhale through the nose 5 counts, capture the nitric oxide, get it deep, because it's a dilator, deep into our lungs and our tissues, and then exhale through the nose for 6 counts. Now, if you think about it, we only would take about 5.5 breaths per minute. Right now, most people are breathing 12, 16, 22 times per minute. And so it would increase the efficiency by 300%. Why is that important? Because we need oxygen. People say, oh, we need oxygen. Of course, we need oxygen to live. But at the same time, oxygen creates what? Oxidative stress. It rusts. Oxygen is aging. Do you want to age? Probably not. So we need to be more efficient with its utilization. And CO2 is probably the most important molecule in the body because we can't exchange oxygen if we don't have a CO2 tolerance. That's another lesson. But you need to start to learn to utilize that oxygen properly and look into breath work. We can go over that for an hour. But number three, movement. We said our body is a plumbing system. I believe that stagnation equals disease. So I know people that go to the gym every day, an hour and a half, but then they are sitting at a sedentary job at the desk selling insurance for 8 or 9 hours. So from a health point of view, that's not really what we need. We need to constantly move, whether it's walking, dancing, playing with the kids, the dogs. It doesn't matter. And if you can't move, that's why a lot of executives now have a treadmill on their desk and they're on a meeting while they're walking, or mini trampolines or high vibration platforms. So there is technology to substitute for that when you can't, but still, walking outdoors is for free, guys. The opposite of movement, number 4, is rest. We need to get into a deep delta sleep. We need to have enough REM sleep so we wake up vibrant and ready to go. And most of us, we don't wake up that way. We go like, oh, I wish I could stay in bed a little bit longer. I'm still tired. And so that's not good, because during sleep, we're supposed to do what? Replenish, renew, regenerate. It's like a supermarket. If the people that are responsible for restocking the shelves go on strike 1 or 2 days, there's nothing to buy. There's no supermarket. It's the same with our body. During the night, we restore, replenish, renew. And so when that doesn't happen, we get a vicious spiral of being fatigued all the time, not being able to focus, produce, brain fog. The list goes on. So we need to find a way. And the way I do it is I create a very short custom evening power routine with the clients that they can rely on to get into a deep sleep. Two good examples of that are very common within that routine would be, number 1, no eating or snacking 3, 4, 5 hours before you go to bed, because digestion takes a long time. And if you're trying to get into a deep sleep while your body is still digesting food, you will not be able to. Number 2, most people think and worry too much, and so they're thinking and can't get to sleep, right? So what I do as part of my power routine, I do a 60-second visualization where I go through my next 24 hours and make a decision at each point of contact. And so when I do that for 60 seconds, I don't have to worry about the next 24 hours and I can go to sleep. So we need to make sure we wake up rested and get deep sleep. That was number 4. Number 5, sunlight. Sunlight stimulates all biological, physiological, and nutritional processes in our body. Think about the animals around the equator in the Amazon. They are strong, vibrant, colorful, versus an animal that doesn't see sunlight, a mole, they're even blind, right? So who do you want to be, right? We got away from being exposed to sunlight because, again, we spend too much time indoors. We need to spend more time outdoors, and we need to get rid of some clothes. Now, don't start running around naked, but especially in your own yard, get rid of those long pants. Take that t-shirt up, put your bikini top on, whatever it may be. Throw those sunglasses and hats away, because sunlight is, heals. We are preconditioned that the sun is bad. No, sun heat is bad. Think about the animals. They not go out at 2 p.m. when it's blazing hot. No, they're all hiding because the heat exhausts. But the sunlight is what gives them the vitality. So spend more time outdoors. Go out for lunch, go for a walk in the weekends, do outdoor activities, and get rid of those clothes. Take those shoes off too, so you can start grounding with Mother Earth at the same time. Number 6 is diets. And for most people, that's the only thing they think is important for health. But no, it's only one of 7. 6 is diet. I believe, we can so much say about diet, right? But I believe the cause of all disease is toxemia. Toxemia literally means toxins in the blood, right? But in a little bit more detail, it means that on a daily basis, because of our normal metabolism and normal living, we obviously produce waste and toxins. But in a healthy organism, those are eliminated by the kidneys, the bowels, the skin, etc. So at the end of the day, no harm is done. However, today we are exposed and we take in far more toxins than the body possibly can eliminate. So now we have an accumulation of toxins in our blood and our body, and that's what we call toxemia. Now, research shows that toxemia does 2 things. Number 1, these toxins that are floating around, and they shouldn't be, they steal an electron from a healthy atom, which then becomes unstable, which we all know as a free radical, causing that oxidative stress. Number 2, even easier to understand, we're now in a constant state of emergency because we can't keep up with elimination. And in conventional medicine, we call that systemic inflammation. And even conventional medicine says now and agrees now that over 90% of all disease is directly related to the systemic inflammation, right? Which is that state of emergency. So how do we stay bulletproof against viruses, degenerative disease, and cancer? Well, simple, actually, theoretically, we need to keep toxemia in check. How do we do that? Well, we need to reduce the exposure and intake of toxins from what? Man-made foods, man-made drinks, over-the-counter, prescription medication, household products, cleaning products, cosmetic products that we put in our hair, on our skin, on our body. Electromagnetic frequency and radiation, yes, it's invisible, but it's real. Over 3,000 studies show how we are exposed to this on a daily basis, also causing indirect DNA damage. And then our stress, our emotion, our emotional trauma that we are not releasing, all of that we need to do whatever we can to mitigate and reduce at each of those levels, while simultaneously increasing the nutrients that do what? Fight free radical damage, fight systemic inflammation, and repair our DNA. Do we have to become a health freak? No. We just need to tip that balance so we become bulletproof. So that's number 6. Number 7 is we need to upgrade the mind. It's probably the most important of all 7, because the mind controls our body, decides whether we're sick or healthy, and is the blueprint to our future, to our successes and failures. So I talk a lot about belief system, about the emotional trauma that we need to release, um, about being pulled forward by the future, about what we think, what we speak. All those things become important when we talk about overcoming a disease like cancer. But also, if we want to get to that next level or become a multimillionaire, we need to be really pulled forward by the future, leave those quote unquote failures, which were just lessons, behind, and really work on our thoughts, our words, and our belief system. Because if there's any doubt in your mind that you're going to overcome a disease or become the next Tony Robbins or become a next millionaire or whatever, or become a great artist or write the best book ever, whatever it is, if there's any doubt, then the universe has 2 options, failure or success. If there's no doubt, the universe only has 1 option, a big win. So no matter who I work with, that mindset becomes very important. And it's also something that you can't switch overnight, but it's something that you do 10 minutes every day, and immediately, very quickly, in a few weeks already, you're going to see a exponential increase in your awareness of what your mind's doing to you. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Those are 7 areas where I know everyone can focus on and really take, what you said, and implement changes in their everyday life. I want to get back to one thing that you mentioned earlier about supplements, because there's definitely, we hear some of them, it's great, and sometimes it's just, your liver is just trying to get, rid of that once you're taking them. So what are your thoughts on supplements and how they should be
Look, well, today's supplements, if we live in this society where we're bombarded with all these excess toxins and environmental toxins, supplements become an insurance policy, in my opinion, because we can't eat all the healthy foods to get all the essential nutrients that we need on a daily basis. And so supplements become important. I would think, number 1, yes, we should test for any deficiencies so we know what to buy. But we also got to be careful, because when you do your blood work or whatever it may be, there's these normal ranges. Now we need to understand that those ranges are, first of all, very subjective, and they were put together for our soldiers heading to World War II, because they want to ration our soldiers. So what that means is that when you fall in that range, you are barely alive. That's what that means, right? And so being normal is not good when we're talking about health and optimal health and performance. So the good stuff, like your vitamin B12, your vitamin C's, and all the kind of stuff, needs to be optimal, needs to be at a very high range, right? But certain things cannot be too high, like your vitamin A or your iron. Those types of things, or your nitric oxide. They need to be in balance, because too much is not good either, right? So based on the nutrient, you need to know what's optimal. And certain nutrients you don't want too much of, like you said, because they can be detrimental too. So it's always about that homeostasis and that balance. So it's good to test and then implement certain strategies and test again and see if you get to those optimal levels when it comes to supplements. But based on which stage you are and what your deficiencies are, you certainly need to supplement. And when you're in the 3rd stage and you're talking about anti-aging, then there's so many things that you can do. Whether it's hydrogen, there's no such thing as too much, because, for example, the saturation point of molecular hydrogen in your blood plasma is 1.8 to 2.2 cc's per liter. And so if you get more, then you're simply going to exhale it. So there's no harm done, right? So certain things you can't do too much. But yeah, I believe without high quality supplements, you really can get all the nutrients that we need to get the job done. Even if you eat only organic, wholesome foods, you probably will be short of certain essential nutrients.
Thank you. That was very insightful. Appreciate your insights there. Well, I want to know, because obviously you hold multiple swimming world records, and you've worked with top tier athletes. what are kind of the key lessons from these elite sports that you can, apply to, health and just success? What would you recommend to our audience?
Well, again, there's a lot, but I think what separates the top athlete from your average athlete is the mindset, that number 7, right? If you look at a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, they never had a bad game. They lost, their team lost games, but it usually wasn't their fault. And that's because they are able to get into the zone on demand. And we talk about getting into the zone. Most of us have experienced it once or twice in our lifetime, but it was merely by chance, is at least what we think, right? But people need to understand that being in that zone is not just for athletes, it's a skill that everybody can acquire and master. Because when we're in the zone, we're hyper focused and there's no distractions, right? And that's when we really become very creative. That's where we only have the end in mind. Because your average athlete, when a golfer misses a putt, a simple putt, it affects them usually the next play. When a wide receiver, when the ball slips through their hand, it takes them a few plays to get back into the game because they're preoccupied with that loss. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, when they miss a simple layup, they probably block the shot on the other end, right? Because they don't care about that. They only have the end in mind, that big win. And so I think, even people with cancer, which is totally the opposite of these top athletes, when they are labeled with that dirty words, that's the first mistake conventional medicine makes. Whether they consciously or unconsciously thinking about it, that word cancer is right there all the time. And so whatever we think, consciously or subconsciously, it's gonna present itself. That's actually what's gonna happen. This is the blueprint. So when the doctor says you probably won't make it but 6 months, if you believe that, then it's exactly what's gonna happen. And so every thought, that's what people don't believe, but you got to look into it. Everything we're thinking is what shapes our future. And so if you're thinking negatively, you gonna get a lot of diseases and a lot of misfortune. And if you start more thinking positively and create your future with your thoughts and your words, then that abundance will come to you. And it sounds cliche, but I've coming to experience even now more and more of the truth of exactly that. It's your thinking and the way you see yourself and others and the future that's going to shape your future. So if you want to have abundance, if you want to have health in your life, then then you got to start talking differently, thinking differently, and acting differently. And if you think I'm going to die, if you think I'm going to stay sick, I'm never going to overcome this Parkinson's, I'm never going to, I'm always going to have this and this and this, then that's exactly what's going to happen. So that number 7 is very important. I think that's what separates the average from the successful.
Great advice. And I think, this will resonate with a lot of the listeners. So if somebody wants to, work with you, obviously that you have your book, the IZOD Method, Unleash Your Superpower, and you've talked about HydroHeal, but let our audience know what they can do if they want to work directly with you or get in contact with you.
Yeah, sure. Again, I'm avoiding dopamine overload, so I'm not a big social media guy. So the best place is my website, mvtonline.com or biohackingunlimited.com. You can schedule a free 20-minute Zoom call with me to see, what's going on with you, and I'll listen carefully and see how we can help. So that wouldn't cost anything. I have mentorship programs, online virtual training, which becomes an online training too. So I'm creating a community and online training so you can go at your own pace. And every week you can kind of ask the questions that you need to ask. So yeah, a lot of exciting things coming up, and I'm just here to help people get them into the right direction. Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike Van Thielen. We appreciate you being on the Doc Lounge today.
All right. Thank you, Stacey, for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all of our listeners. If you would like to be notified when new episodes air, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And a big thank you to Pacific Companies. Without you guys, this podcast would not be possible. If you would like to be a guest, please go to www.pacificcompanies.com. Thank you.